Hello everyone and welcome to a currently unnamed series where today we're going to be figuring out if we can beat Skyrim using only Daedric artifacts. Daedric artifacts, for those not in the know, are a series of unique items that are each tied to a single Daedric prince, and you must complete a quest for each prince in order to receive their item. These items range from incredibly powerful to incredibly gimmicky, and can be some of the most fun to use items in the whole game. You might be asking yourself where the challenge is then, especially if you've used some of these items before, since many of them are certainly viable weapons for use in most of the game. But let's clarify that initial rule set of Daedric artifacts only. I cannot use any weapon, armor, spell, or recovery item that is not a Daedric artifact. That means no standard weapons or armor, no magic, no potions, and absolutely no wheels of cheese. Class skills, fists, and plot-mandated dragon shouts are allowed, but otherwise, we're on our own. Pause the video and comment below with what you think my endgame artifacts will be. You done? Let's get into it. With these limitations in place, we have to map out the beginning of the run pretty carefully. I decided to start off as an Argonian, since the Hist skin power is the only in-combat healing we'll be capable of until pretty far into the run, and even then it's only available once per day, so if we need to heal more than once in a fight, we're going to be out of luck. The obvious strategy, after we've run away from the dragon that saves us from our imminent execution, is to beeline it straight to our endgame armor and weapon, but if we try that, we'll run into a bit of a snag. Most Daedric quests are locked behind level requirements, with a couple of the items we're aiming for requiring levels up to 30. Not only that, but there's a fair chance we wouldn't be able to complete several of those quests anyways. We're currently wearing nothing but our starting rags, and our only weapon is our scaly fists. Tough enough to Liam Neeson some wolves, but unlikely to stand up to anything tougher that comes our way. We're pretty squishy and likely to stay that way for a while. The next problem we run into is how to level up. The only way to level up in Skyrim is to increase your skills, which go up naturally just by using them. Sounds good, except we have no way to increase those skills. Armor skills go up by getting hit, and weapon skills go up by hitting things, neither of which we have access to. So we're out of luck for now. Luckily, we only need one artifact to get the whole thing started, and I know exactly which one. The Mace of Molag Bal. This is one of the few artifacts that isn't level gated, and as luck would have it, is also one of the easiest Daedric quests in the game. The footage you've been watching just now isn't any simple b-roll, it's my journey to Markarth, which is where we'll find the quest to receive this mace. We didn't have to walk, strictly speaking, since the rules I outlined don't actually prohibit accumulating or spending gold, but it seems more in the spirit of the run to shun monetary possessions and gains whenever possible. We enter an abandoned house at the quest of Tyrannus, who we then quickly beat to death because a disembodied voice told us we should. Seems reasonable. The voice turns out to be Molag Bal, a Daedric prince who's got his knickers in a twist because Logrolf, a priest of Boethia, has been performing rites on his altar and making his prized mace all gross and rusty. Molag wants to ambush this guy now that we're on his team, but apparently he's been kidnapped and it's up to us to go rescue him so he'll come back to the altar and try to misuse it, so then we can finally ambush him. Sure seems like a lot of work just to kill a guy who's probably already going to die, but we're just in this for the mace, so we'll do whatever. We find Logrolf at a Forsworn camp, which luckily only has two basic enemies here that we are able to send to an early grave with our fists, and then we get to release our man. Apparently this is easier said than done though, because he doesn't trust us and won't be convinced to run away to his freedom and continue living his life until we bribe him. I'm not joking. We scrounge up a bit of cash and send him on his way, where we finally get to ambush his ass, beating him down and receiving our first Daedric artifact of the run, the Mace of Molag Bal. This mace deals additional stamina and magic damage to enemies, alongside filling empty soul gems if it still has charge, but we're just not here for that. We're finally happy to have a stick to hit things with. Now for most of the rest of the items we'll be going for, we need to level up a bit, so we'll just be playing through the story like normal to make progress and level up our one-handed skill along the way, it being our sole consistent way of gaining experience. We make our way into Whiterun, kill our first dragon, and go visit the Greybeards without too much incident, except for getting absolutely wrecked by the Frost Troll on our way up to High Hrothgar. Boy do we need some armor, and fast. There are two options for armor in this run, and the one I'd prefer to pick up, the Ebony Mail, requires us to be level 30 in order to pick up the quest. That leaves us with the Savior's Hide, which we'll head out to get once we're done beating up the Greybeards for a little bit. Since leveling naturally will take absolutely forever, we're going to abandon our previous plan of just using one-handed, and exploit the fact that the Greybeards are absolutely incapable of responding to our aggression against them. My completely unresearched theory is that since we need to use unrelenting force against one of them in order to demonstrate our powers, that they're just hard-coded never to aggro against the player character when we take violent action against them. They're also incredibly plot crucial, so having them hate us would definitely soft lock the game. Whatever the reason though, the result is that we can easily power level our sneak stat by hiding behind them when they're meditating or sleeping, and sneak attacking them repeatedly. It's not the most exciting process, but after about 40 very riveting minutes, we've reached sneak level 100 and character level 19, which unlocks a couple quests that we need and over doubles our health. We could reset our sneak skill and keep going, but we'll save that for if we get really desperate down the line. Now that we've left High Hrothgar, it's time for some armor. Both things we can currently find are near Falkreath, and we'll start with the only helmet we can obtain, the Mask of Clavicus Vile. By finding Barbas, the talking dog, we're able to start the quest, kill some vampires, and eventually reunite him with his master, which ends in us getting the helmet. We could have kept the axe that Clavicus has us fetch for him, but we'll be picking up a much better weapon in a little bit, and there are no alternative helmets, so the choice here is easy. Next up is our body armor, which requires us to go to the graveyard and grill this dude about his newly dead child. Nice. He puts us on the trail of Sinding, a werewolf who angered the Daedra prince Hircine by stealing his ring. We go and kill the white stag that Hircine embodies, and then he asks us to go kill Sinding and tear his skin off, which we will be wearing as armor for likely the rest of the game. The Savior's Hide comes with nice resistances to magic damage and poison, but more importantly gives us infinitely higher damage resistance than what we've been wearing so far. While we can take a few more hits than before, we're still currently stuck with our Hist skin power as the only way we can heal during combat, and something that's only usable once a day isn't the most reliable in a prolonged battle. It's also kind of annoying to have to wait 24 hours after each combat to get it back, so we're currently looking at upgrades. Also, anything that makes me stop having to say Hist skin would be really helpful. Like, that is a really hard word, just say it. Hist skin. Anyway. There is a ring that lets us eat corpses to regain health, which could be useful, but that won't help us through dragon fights or other encounters with large beefy enemies that don't have convenient dead bodies lying around. Unfortunately, we still haven't hit the level we need to unlock the quest for the item we're looking for, so we're going to have to gain some more experience in the main quest before we can add to our arsenal. To that end, we go to Ustengrav, meet Delphine, and return the Horn of Jurgen Windcaller to the Greybeards, all without much incident. But the most important thing to note here is that we have finally hit level 20. This gives us access to the Whispering Door quest, which will give us access to a source of much more consistent healing, and also doubles as our endgame weapon. We interrogate the Jarl of Whitewarren's creepy kid to find out he's been talking to Mephala, who offers us access to her weapon if we can just manage to get the key to the door it's locked behind. We naturally pull this off flawlessly, first try. Shut up. After using our innate Dragonborn power of the quick save, we can unlock the door and get the single item that makes this run most viable, the Ebony Blade. Bonus points to you if you guessed this was what we were going for. It has the lowest damage of any two-handed weapon in the game, but it has an extremely powerful enchantment. The Ebony Blade drains 10 points of health from its target and gives it back to you. Pair that with the fast attack speed, and that can go a long way to keep us alive. Sounds great, and there's no better time than the present to test it out since it's time for the Kynes Grove dragon fight. This fight goes pretty smoothly with our health staying high throughout and the whole fight being over pretty quickly. I think it's safe to say the sword will come in real handy as far as our main objective of not dying goes. Could be better though, and luckily we can upgrade the life drain effect of the sword, even though it's kind of a pain in the ass to do it. The blade requires betrayal to feed its power, and that means we'll have to murder a bunch of people that we've gotten to like us. Every 2 friendly people we murder adds 4 points to the life drain, up to a maximum of 30 points total, which is pretty ridiculous. To reach that number though, we first have to get 10 people to consider us friends, because we relatably don't have anywhere near that many, which means doing quests or favors for each one of them, and then carving them up like turkey. I don't really feel like doing that many right now, so we'll pick off a couple to start with and see if we need to upgrade it further down the line. All told, we murder 4 friends out of the gate, so we're at about 60% of our total potential lifesteal damage. I'm thinking this might be enough to get us to the end of the game, so let's forge on and see what happens. At this point, barring any brick walls where we absolutely can't get past a fight with our current damage and healing capacity, there's not much more we can do than plow through the rest of the main plot. Next up is the Thalmor Embassy, where we go loud to get as much experience for our abilities as we possibly can, which goes off without a hitch. Next we find Esbern, who gives us our glitch of the run, where the ambush that's supposed to happen after we leave his hideout just didn't spawn, and I honestly didn't even notice he wasn't following me until I got back to Riverwood and Delphine yelled at me for leaving him alone. This is similar to a very well-known glitch, where Esbern gets himself lost on the way, and the solution to that one is just to fast travel around until he decides to show up wherever you are, which I immediately tried. This didn't work though, so I went all the way back into the Ratway Warrens, where the ambush finally decided to spawn in, letting me kill them and finally proceed with the game. Honorable glitch mention goes out to this note I found with a placeholder describing the implementation of how the note itself is supposed to work. We breeze through the next part of the game, finding Alduin's Wall, meeting Parthenax, and getting into Winterhold to start looking for the Elder Scroll with 0 issues. Next up though, we do run into a bit of a sticky situation when we're looking for the Elder Scroll itself, and that's in the form of Dwemer constructs. This isn't even something I considered at the outset of the run, but since they aren't alive, we can't steal their life force. This gets us brutally murdered a couple times, but this is the only area in the game where they're mandatory to fight, and careful use of Hist Skin combined with a little bit of running away like a pansy works like a charm, and in no time at all we're back to killing nice squishy Falmer for their sweet, sweet life juice. We find the Elder Scroll, beat up Alduin at the throat of the world, and endure the most boring dinner party I've ever been to. Then we trap a dragon, head off to Skuldafn, and fight our way into Sovngarde for the end of the game. We come up to Beefy McBeeferson here, aka the actual final boss of the game, and he proceeds to grind our insides into paste. Repeatedly. We absolutely do not output enough damage or heal fast enough to take this guy on, especially because I was an idiot and didn't wait in Skuldafn for our Hist Skin power to recharge, which is doubly stupid because you aren't even allowed to wait in Sovngarde. Maybe that'll be the difference we need. One save reload later, we come back with our slight healing advantage on our side and manage to beat him on the first try. Go figure. If you ever do your own challenge runs, don't be like me. Go into endgame areas prepared. Anyway, this leaves us without that power for the Alduin fight, though he doesn't deal nearly as much damage nearly as quickly, so it shouldn't be quite as rough. Things do get a little dicey when we miss Dragon Rend a couple times in a row and he doesn't land, letting him strafe us from the sky out of reach of our healing, but eventually we get him back to land and claw back our health before finally dispatching the big bad once and for all, winning the run. I'll be honest, going into this run I was pretty sure it would be doable, but I was really interested to see where exactly the main roadblocks were going to be. Mostly in the early game as we got our build going, though we definitely could have breezed through the endgame a bit easier if we'd taken the time to upgrade the Ebony Blade all the way. Overall, I'm really happy with how things turned out. Thanks for sticking with me through my first challenge run. It was the most fun I've had making a video so far, so be sure to expect more of these coming in the future. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and maybe be like my coolest viewer in here, and subscribe to my Patreon as well. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.